I keep sounding a bit muted whenever I do this, and I'm not sure if I have to do something post-processing or if I can get it to sound how I want, just live like this. That's something for me to figure out. When you hear this, it'll have already gone through whatever I figure out. Um, not quite, not quite muffled or muted. It's just somewhat distorted. I probably need to normalize and equalize and all those things that I don't fully understand yet. So yeah, uh, enjoy this learning process, as well as how far to even sit away from the microphone. I found that I was sitting too close, uh, and that has its own distorting effects. Beyond that, there's the fact that I have not been speaking very much, just in general. I mean, I've been writing primarily. I don't make videos or speak too much, and I've gradually become more and more of a recluse as I get older. Um, though this is not a definite personality change or anything. Still welcome to being social. It just has not been on, not been part of the deal. So I'm sure I'll attain vocal mastery at some point. So now to what I've been thinking about and why I'm here now. Um, I was noticing a few things. One is that we seem to collectively have this sort of uh, messianic inclination. We're constantly seeking a protagonist, um, and we sort of like our collective superego. We're constantly making stories in fiction um, as an attempt, a grasping attempt toward. It's not even the ideal man, um, but it's a prominent character, and we're always doing this, and it isn't always just for the like messianic hero figure. The Yeah, so there's the antagonist to this as well. Um, it seems that we are, as a species, that which creates stories, and we do this impulsively as well as consciously, depending on the level of awareness we have. Um, so you can watch a movie, and then you can create one, and then you can be like meta analytical about the creation of arts, um, extending beyond your field. So let's say you've attained meta awareness in cinema. You're what is it, a cinephile? Is that what it is? Um, but you're studying, you're learning the Tao of movies. Um, and then you can look beyond that, and you start to recognize the creative process in other fields. Um, and through doing this, you realize that there are similar. There's an underlying meta pattern to everything, and it doesn't really matter what you use to get there, as long as you get there. Like there's stories of old women uh, basically becoming enlightened through knitting. They through comprehension of the knitting process, it just something clicks in them, and they essentially recognize the Tao. Uh, they walk the way with enough attention in whatever they're doing that they are awakened to uh, the universal nature of it, understanding that there is this uniting thread through all things, um, which most people aren't aware of, which is a big problem that I'm interested in solving. at a cultural collective level. Because wouldn't it be better if everyone were enlightened? Um, and that can mean different things to different people. And I've been saying when I use it that enlightenment or being born again or being on the path or all these words for it is the realization of that meta pattern, the realization that you are that. Um, and the words are more of effect placed upon this realization uh, for performative communication. It doesn't change that universal insight. Um, and if we can have as foundation for our cultures, which is understood, taught, practiced, you have to participate in it. So like if you're growing up in a culture with many people who all understand this and are speaking about it and embedding this realization into their daily living, you get an enlightened culture that can produce great things and builds a language that better suits our processes, whether that's out in the world processes or your personal thinking, your contemplations. Um, because another key thing in that is recognizing that in recognizing that meta pattern, in recognizing yourself, you see the connection between everything. Everything sort of becomes one thing in that instant. Um, but practically speaking, nothing changes, and that's one of the most amusing parts of it. You wake up to the fact of life, the fact of being, and nothing really changes. Some people can get to this point and feel that all was for naught, um, that this isn't the payoff they were expecting. Um, Others are just so enthused by this realization that it sort of carries them further. And I would consider that more of like a temperament thing. As I was saying before, nothing really changes. What that means is that the change that occurs is on a higher level than the phenomena around you. Um, your way of being and method of thinking may change, though that is also gradual. Um, and eventually, things in the external world may also shift, but that isn't the point. And people generally are seeking change in the external world. And people who get into spirituality and whatever, they're doing it from an unenlightened state. So that when people finally attain this enlightenment thing, this self-realization, um, they become embedded, they become coherent with the universal network of consciousness, truly self-aware. You can, from that perspective, look again at all the things that you've been doing in an entirely new light. That is, you are enlightened. You have new light. That is what you're doing. Um, Adding light to a room does not change the room, but you're able to see it. Um, and you can go deeper than this because we all know now that the visible spectrum is not the extent of reality. Uh, so there are lights upon lights. The first enlightenment is not the last. And it appears to be that this is an infinite process, that we are all engaging with this meta narrative in a process of evolution that has and will always occur. This constant arising, becoming aware of these causal, eternal principles both allows us to grow because we realize more, and then we can perfect our own decisions. But the perfecting of decisions also expands this ability to realize, and it just compounds on itself uh, forever. Um, this freedom that you gain throughout this process, you'll reach sort of plateaus where you don't know where to go next. Um, and it becomes a constant adventure. Once you've had that first awakening sort of experience, it's as if you become lucid in the dream, and then from that point you begin mastering uh, that newfound freedom. Your chains are loosened, but they're not completely off. And I think this is different schools have different names for them, but I do think this is well understood in all of the traditional schools, or any good traditional school, where you have enlightenment and then liberation as a sort of octave above, or the penultimate fractal upleveling of this, uh, where you become so free you are essentially um, there is no difference between you and the meta pattern. And I'm not I'm not saying I'm at this level. It doesn't make sense. I'm still in I am in a relational experience with this. And I think this is where you get the symbols of self-realization and God realization, and how there is a relationship between these two. There is still, in my experience, this duality. There are still seeming internal and external things. But as you persist in this relationship with that seeming higher force, every day, every moment, you attain greater realization that you are that. But it doesn't always feel that way. And these feelings, these thoughts, these actions, sometimes when you look at what you've done and you think, I'm not living up, I'm not behaving as if I'm that. There's a sort of shame that can come out, uh, where you'll feel the highs and lows, the bipolarity of, aha, I've attained it, and then you feel a fall, and then you feel an attainment, and it just up and down. And then after doing this for a while, you recognize these cycles and become meta aware of that. And that necessarily means that you've sort of expanded your consciousness over both poles, so that you are both light and dark at the same time, though living in a linear experience as we are day to day. We experience things in a linear fashion, so that we cannot have uh, we cannot have non-duality in that sense. The the mind and body are operating in linear constraints, the mind less so. Psyche, spirit. I've I've come away from using mind because of the materialist connotations. Mind sort of naturally assumes brain-based consciousness. And I will say that's true, but it is not the extent. It's not the total truth. And this this goes right into angels, actually. Um, these lower order truths are like angels, and then there is this ultimate truth, which is considered the Lord or whatever. Um, but people are constantly misinterpreting what that highest order is because they can't see that far. Um, so your highest order today may become a lower order tomorrow. Uh, and that is how I've come to recognize growth. If I'm growing, what evolution is, it's essentially climbing this Jacob's ladder of uh, awareness. Awareness is a good word for it. You can call it God, you can call it whatever. Just know that whatever you call it, it won't be that way forever. Um, until you get to the point where you see that there is this God with a thousand faces who appears as everything that you're striving for or running away from. When you've got to that point, which is where I think I'm at right now, where I'm aware of the polarities and I'm aware of the balancing between them, and that I'm somehow all of them at once, but experiencing them in in an ordered way. And I'm not entirely sure what to do next from this. Um, Other than to enjoy it. I mean, I'm enjoying it. What I'm that's I'm enraptured by it. Um, and I'm not even sure if at this point if I'm seeking anything. It's a very I mean, I have wants, of course. You never stop having wants. I think people get confused um, with the prominence of Buddhism that enlightenment somehow relieves you of desire. But I think it's more in line with what I'm talking about here, where you're aware of uh, you see the desire, you see the polarities, and you're sort of above it. You transcend it in a way um, where you've seen through all the goals that most people have. And while you may still want to achieve those things, you know that they're not like the ultimate goal, or they're like there isn't a point in them inherently because I've seen that which all points get their pointedness from uh, the the distributor of all qualities, the creator of all things. And it's just my conversation with that. That's there's nothing else I can be doing. Like it's not that I'm devoted to God or something, or a student devoting all my time to practice. I've understood that there is nothing I can do that is not relation to that one. And so whatever thoughts or actions I'm doing, whatever I want or resist, there is that other awareness which is making sense of all of these things. The there's no action I can make which is not a dance for that. Uh, there's nothing I can do that is not a performance, an offering to the Most High thing. Um, and I would like to see what comes next. Not that I suppose I am still, I'm still wanting more. Like that hasn't changed. But the way that I want has become refined. Um, and as it keeps refining, I'm not sure what I'll find. And that is the mystery, the beauty of it. Um, because if you do these things, you'll find an unlimited source of adventure and joy. Which is why I'm so interested in it, because you can share that with people.